You wake up face down in dust, and not the soft, sunlit, "Oh, look, I'm in an Old Town Road music video" dust. No, this is gritty, hot, probably in your mouth and nose already dust. The kind of dust that's been circulating since before you were born, the kind that carries with it microscopic flecks of horse droppings, tobacco spit, and regret from 50 years ago. Your lips are dry, your tongue feels like a sandpaper lollipop, and the air tastes faintly of metal, probably because the only water within reach has been sitting in a tin canteen all morning under the sun, absorbing all the delicious flavors of rust, algae, and mosquito larvae. You blink and realize there's no ceiling above you. That is not because you are outside for a morning stroll. It is because you are literally outside, sleeping on the ground, like a human welcome mat for snakes and scorpions. No bed, no tent, no memory foam pillow. Just you, the dirt, and whatever critter decided you were a warm rock last night. Welcome to the Wild West, somewhere between 1865 and 1895. Where the vibe is 1/3 Clint Eastwood movie, 1/3 medieval survival horror, and 1/3 rural Facebook drama. Except everyone here is armed. You push yourself up and immediately regret it because every muscle screams at you. Turns out, sleeping on bare earth is basically like wrestling a sack of bricks in your dreams all night. The sun is already glaring down like it's personally offended you exist. And there is no shade except for a couple of buildings with crooked wooden signs that creak ominously in the wind. The street is just packed dirt, no pavement, no sidewalks, just a wide, dusty lane lined with ramshackle storefronts and hitching posts. The smell is, well, it is something between a petting zoo and an old barn that hasn't been cleaned since Abraham Lincoln was president. You inhale, cough, and instantly regret taking in that much frontier air. The first sound you hear is the slow clop-clop of a horse's hooves on the dirt road. You look up to see a man ride past on a chestnut mare, his hat tipped low to shade his eyes, a rifle slung lazily across his saddle. He doesn't look at you. Nobody does. You're not important yet. Around here, strangers are just potential trouble or potential victims, depending on who spots you first. Your stomach growls, which is hilarious because breakfast isn't really a thing unless you count a hunk of stale bread or whatever jerky you forgot in your pocket yesterday. And coffee? Sure, they have it. If you enjoy coffee that tastes like it was brewed in an old boot and strained through someone's laundry water. But hey, at least it's hot. Everything here is hot. The sun beats down harder by the minute like it's trying to melt your face off before lunch. You start sweating almost immediately, and congratulations. You now smell exactly like everyone else in this town. Damp leather, horse, and misery. You wander toward the saloon because it is the only place in sight that might sell something edible. The swinging doors are already flapping as a couple of rough-looking men step out, their boots caked with mud, spurs jangling, eyes scanning you like they're deciding if you're worth the trouble. Inside, the air is thick with tobacco smoke, the sour scent of spilled beer, and a faint undertone of whatever passed for perfume in the 19th century. Spoiler alert, it is not good. You step in, and the piano player doesn't stop, which is good because it means you're not interesting enough to get shot at yet. A few heads turn, sizing you up. The bartender, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and sharper elbows, gives you the once-over and says, "You buying, or are you just here to smell the place?" You mumble something about food, and she disappears into the back. When she returns, she slaps down a plate with a fried egg so overcooked it could bounce, and a biscuit hard enough to chip a tooth. You eat anyway because there's no DoorDash in 1880, and starving isn't as fun as it sounds. The egg tastes faintly of wood smoke and dust, probably because there is dust in everything, and you wash it down with a tin mug of coffee so bitter it could be used as a chemical weapon. Outside, the town is waking up. A few shops open their doors. The general store, which sells everything from flour to bullets. The blacksmith, whose forge is already roaring. The post office, where letters take weeks or months to arrive, if they arrive at all. A kid runs by barefoot, chasing a stray chicken. A mangy dog trots past, dragging something unidentifiable in its mouth. Someone yells in the distance, followed by a muffled curse and the sound of breaking glass. There's an energy here, but it's not the buzzing excitement of a modern city. It's tense, like everyone's waiting for something to go wrong, and it usually does. Maybe it's the lack of law enforcement. The sheriff's office is a single-room shack with one cell and a desk covered in dust. Or maybe it's just the fact that when people are this bored, this hot, and this armed, trouble has a way of finding them. You walk the length of the street, and your boots kick up little clouds of dirt with each step. Your throat is dry again, but you are hesitant to drink from your canteen because the water inside is basically lukewarm soup at this point. Flies buzz lazily in the heat, landing on anything that moves slow enough, which unfortunately includes you. A couple of men argue loudly outside the general store, their voices rising until one spits in the dirt and stalks off. The other glares at you like you're next. You quickly look away. This isn't the kind of place where you make eye contact with strangers unless you were prepared to follow it up with a fight. The wind shifts, and you catch the scent of horses from the stable, a pungent mix of hay, manure, and sweat. It's stronger than anything you've ever smelled before, but somehow you're already getting used to it. That's the Wild West for you. The longer you stay, the less you notice the dirt, the heat, the smell, until it's just part of the background, part of survival. And yet, under all that grit and stink, there's something else here. A sense that every day could be your last. Not in the romantic live life to the fullest way, more in the oops, you stepped in the wrong saloon at the wrong time way. You're not here to thrive. You're here to make it through the day without getting shot, trampled, bitten, or just dying of heat exhaustion. And the day's only just started. The day doesn't start when you re-ready. It starts when the sun decides to slap you awake like a drunk uncle at a wedding. It's barely dawn, but the air already feels warm enough to bake bread, and the sky's that washed-out pale blue that screams, "Hope you like heat stroke." Your new job isn't glamorous. You're the assistant to the town blacksmith. And before you start picturing some noble medieval craft, let us be clear, this is more manual labor purgatory than artisanal metalwork. Your first task? Shovel coal into the forge until your back aches like you've been in a bar fight with a sack of bricks. The forge is basically a giant fire pit surrounded by metal tools that are all specifically designed to burn you, stab you, or fall on your foot. It's already a solid 110 degrees inside, and the day hasn't even started. The air is thick with smoke and metal dust, so every breath feels like you're snorting barbecue seasoning, with extra tetanus. Your boss, Jedediah, is already there, bare forearms blackened with soot, sweat running down his temples. He grunts at you without making eye contact, which is actually the nicest thing he's done so far. His only real instruction is don't screw up, which is tricky because this entire place is basically a screw-up waiting to happen. The hammering starts almost immediately, loud and relentless, each blow sending vibrations straight into your bones. It's the kind of noise that makes you wonder if silence even exists anymore. You pump the bellows, which sounds like an easy gig until you realize you are basically working a 19th century stairmaster for hours on end. Your arms burn, your shoulders ache, and you're sweating so much it feels like you've sprung a leak. Every so often, a spark jumps from the forge and lands on your shirt, and you do the awkward panicked dance of someone trying not to set themselves on fire. Spoiler, it happens a lot. Lunch isn't really a thing, and not the way you know it. There's no grab a sandwich and scroll your phone. There is no phone. There is no sandwich. There's a hunk of beef jerky that could double as a weapon, and maybe some stale bread if you're lucky. You chew slowly, not for enjoyment, but because your jaw muscles are on strike and need time to negotiate. You lean against the wall for a moment, but Jedediah shoots you a look that says, "Keep moving, or I'll make sure your ghost is still pumping those bellows." Every tool here weighs more than it should. You try lifting a metal horseshoe mold, and it feels like it's personally offended by your weak modern arms. You carry buckets of water from the well, but by the time you arrive, half of it has sloshed out, and Jedediah just mutters something about city folk under his breath. You want to tell him you're from the future, not the city, but something tells you time travel won, to impress him as much as finishing his orders before sundown. And the smell. Oh, the smell. The blacksmith shop is a cocktail of hot iron, singed hair, and the distinct aroma of animal sweat baked into leather. It clings to your skin, your clothes, your hair. You could bathe for an hour and still smell like you just rolled in a bonfire. Which is fine, because bathing isn't exactly an everyday luxury here. Every so often, a customer strolls in, a farmer needing new horseshoes, a rancher bringing in a busted plow, a cowboy looking for a fresh bullet mold. They stand around, swapping gossip while Jedediah works. You listen without meaning to, learning about whose cattle went missing, who got in a fight at the saloon, and which poor fool got caught cheating at cards. Most of it ends with someone being shot, which you're starting to think is just the local version of a bad Yelp review. By mid-afternoon, your shirt is plastered to your back. Your hands are blistered, and you've inhaled enough smoke to season your lungs. The sun outside is so bright it feels like stepping into a furnace, but the forge somehow manages to be worse. You're pretty sure your eyebrows are singed, but you're too tired to check. Jedediah finally tosses you a task that feels important: shaping a horseshoe. You grip the tongs, hold the glowing metal over the anvil, and start hammering. It's heavier than you expect, and each swing feels clumsy, awkward. The metal starts to cool too fast, and Jedediah growls at you to move faster. You slam it down again, sparks flying dangerously close to your face. Somewhere in the background, a horse snorts impatiently, probably wondering why it has to wait for your sorry attempt at craftsmanship. When the workday ends, if you can call it an end, you recoated in soot, sweat, and exhaustion. Your arms ache, your knees ache, and even your earlobes feel tired. There's no clocking out here. You just keep working until Jedediah decides he's done, which could be anywhere between the sun is setting and I am bored now. You shuffle outside into the fading light. The street is quieter now, the heat finally loosening its grip. Somewhere down by the saloon, laughter bursts out, followed by the sound of a chair breaking. A dog barks in the distance. You think about heading straight to your bedroll, but your stomach growls again. Dinner's calling. Dinner, by the way, is whatever the town cook hasn't burned to a crisp. Tonight, it's beans. Just beans. The kind that come in a tin and taste like the metal they were cooked in. You eat them anyway, sitting on the steps outside the shop, watching the sky turn orange and purple. The horizon looks beautiful, sure, but all you can think about is how much your body hurts and how you have to do this all again tomorrow. There's no applause, no paycheck, no Employee of the Month plaque. Just another day in the Wild West, where the job nobody wants is somehow the job you have. And if you think this was the hard part, wait until you meet the people who make this town run and ruin it in equal measure. The thing about living in the Wild West is that you were not just dealing with the environment, the heat, the dust, the threat of getting trampled by a horse. You're also dealing with the people. And these people are, let's just say, colorful is the polite term. In reality, it's a mix of stubborn survivalists, professional troublemakers, and folks who look like they've been trapped in a windstorm made entirely of bad life choices. First, there's Jedediah, your blacksmith boss, who communicates entirely in grunts, spit, and the occasional sentence that starts with, "Back in my day." His face is leathered from decades in the sun, and you're pretty sure his hands could crush a rock into sand without tools. He's not mean exactly, more like permanently annoyed at the existence of anything younger than him. If you ask him a question, his response is either figure it out or stop talking, which in Jedediah speak is basically a warm welcome. Then there's Mary Lou, the saloon owner, who operates her place like a combination bar, town hall, and gossip distribution center. She's maybe in her 40s, with hair piled high and a voice that could cut glass. She has a laugh that makes grown men flinch, and she's been known to throw drunks out by the scruff of their neck without spilling the drink in her other hand. Mary Lou is also the unofficial medic, which is terrifying when you realize her medicine is usually just whiskey, a rag, and a lot of yelling. On the other end of the spectrum, you have Reverend Collins. A man of God, technically, but his sermons tend to wander into personal grudges and stories about how he once wrestled the devil in a dream. He's usually at the saloon more often than the church, sipping whiskey for medicinal purposes, which everyone pretends to believe because it's easier than arguing. Then there's the outlaw gang that drifts in and out of town like a bad smell. They're called the sand vultures, not because they're especially smart or intimidating, but because they scavenge trouble wherever they can find it. Their leader, a wiry man named Finch, has a perpetual squint like he's always sizing you up for a coffin. They ride in, buy supplies, start fights, and vanish before the sheriff sobers up enough to do anything about it. Speaking of the sheriff, you've met him. Once. Sheriff Amos has the kind of face that suggests he's been tired since birth. He's a man of few words, most of them along the lines of Don T caused trouble and I'll get to it when I get to it. His badge is tarnished, his gun is old, and his office is mostly just a place to nap between official duties. In theory, he's the law. In practice, he's the town's most underpaid babysitter. The townsfolk themselves are a mix of hopeful settlers and weary survivors, farmers who've been here long enough to see crops fail more often than they succeed. Miners covered head to toe in dust, with eyes that dart like they're expecting the earth itself to collapse on them. Women in long skirts carrying water from the well, kids chasing each other barefoot down the street, merchants hollering about fresh supplies that have been in storage for only God knows how long. Conversations here are their own kind of entertainment. You overhear a lot of arguments, some over land boundaries, some over poker debts, and one particularly intense one about who stole a chicken. The chicken, by the way, was wandering in the street the whole time, but nobody seemed to notice. It doesn't take long to realize that in the Wild West, reputation is currency. People remember what you said, what you did, and whether you back down from a fight. If you stand your ground, you might earn respect, or a bullet. If you back down, you might live longer, or get pushed around forever. Either way, someone's going to talk about it at Mary Lou's before the day is out. The most dangerous interactions, though, are with strangers. Travelers passing through might be traders, gamblers, prospectors, or drifters looking for a quick score. You learn quickly that small talk here isn't, "How's the weather?" but "Where'd you get that horse?" which is less about curiosity and more about seeing if they can steal it later. One afternoon, a man you've never seen before rides in, tall, gaunt, with a long coat that flaps in the breeze like a villain in a dime novel. He stops outside the saloon, ties up his horse, and walks in without a word. Within minutes, voices rise inside, chairs scrape back, and you hear the unmistakable sound of a gun hammer clicking. You freeze, because in this town, gunfights are less like movie duels and more like chaotic brawls where innocent bystanders are just extra targets. You watch Mary Lou storm out a few minutes later, pushing the stranger ahead of her, his lip bleeding and his coat torn. She shouts something about coming back when you can keep your mouth shut, and the man spits in the dirt before riding off. Nobody asks what happened, because in the Wild West, some questions are better left unanswered if you value your teeth. Even your friends here, and that's a generous term, are unpredictable. Jedediah might cover for you if a customer complains, or he might throw you under the bus for forgetting to clean a tool. Mary Lou might slip you a free drink, or she might slap it out of your hand if she's in a mood. Trust isn't automatic. It's earned in slow, uneven doses and lost in a heartbeat. The truth is, everyone here is balancing on the edge between cooperation and survival. They'll help you fix a wagon wheel, but they'll also take your last loaf of bread if they think you won't miss it. They'll invite you to a barn dance one night and threaten to shoot you the next morning if you cross them. It's exhausting, trying to navigate all the personalities, unspoken rules, and simmering grudges. You start to wonder if the dust in this place isn't just dirt. Maybe it has ground up bits of everyone's patience, hope, and sanity. And just when you think you've figured out how to read the room, someone changes the rules. Which is why you're already dreading what happens when the sun goes down. Because at night, the Wild West belongs to an entirely different breed of people, and most of them aren't looking to make friends. Night in the Wild West doesn't arrive quietly. It doesn't roll in with soft crickets and gentle breezes like in the movies. It falls like a curtain being yanked down, dragging with it a sharp drop in temperature and a whole new set of noises that make you question every life choice that brought you here. The day's heat doesn't fade entirely. It just hovers like a ghost in the dirt, radiating up from the ground. The air feels cooler. Yes, but it's also heavier, like it's holding its breath. The first thing you notice is the silence. Not peaceful silence, the suspicious kind. The kind where you realize the chickens have gone still, the dogs stopped barking, and even the wind has decided to take the night off. Then, slowly, the sounds creep back in. A horse whinnies nervously somewhere near the stables. The boards of a porch creak under a heavy step. From far out in the hills, a coyote lets out a long, mournful howl that echoes through the empty spaces like a warning. Oil lamps flicker along the main street, their weak halos of light pooling just enough to show the dust swirling in the air. Shadows stretch long and strange, twisting the shapes of buildings into hunched, looming figures. Your eyes strain against the darkness beyond the lamplight, because everyone knows the most dangerous things in the West don to walk straight down the middle of the road. They wait in the edges, just outside where you can see. The saloon is the only place still buzzing with life. Laughter spills out, too loud and too sharp to be friendly. Glasses clink, chairs scrape, and somewhere a piano bangs out a song that's just barely holding itself together. You catch snippets of heated conversation, voices rising, then dropping to low growls. You know it's only a matter of time before someone pushes too far. Out here, arguments don't end with "let's agree to disagree." They end with one person walking out and the other not walking at all. Sheriff Amos makes his nightly rounds, which is really just him shuffling down the street with his hat pulled low, giving the occasional nod to people he passes. He's carrying his rifle, but you can tell from his lazy pace he is not looking for trouble. He is just hoping trouble doesn't look for him. In the shadows by the general store, a couple of men lean against the wall, smoking and watching everyone who passes like they're deciding who looks worth robbing. You keep your head down, because that's the unspoken rule. Don't to make eye contact unless you're ready to follow it up with a fight. As the night deepens, the noises get stranger. The creak of a barn door swinging open when no one's around. The muffled scuff of boots on dirt, too light to be a man's but too heavy for a dog. A sudden metallic clang from the blacksmith shop you locked earlier, or thought you locked. You tell yourself it's just the wind, but the wind doesn't make footsteps. You start walking faster, the boards of the sidewalk rattling under your boots. The smell of the night is different too, sharper, with the scent of wood smoke from someone's chimney mixing with the acrid tang of gun oil. Somewhere nearby, someone's loading a weapon. You can hear the metallic click, deliberate and slow, like they want anyone listening to know exactly what's about to happen. Near the edge of town, the darkness is complete. No lamps, no windows lit, just the faint silver wash of moonlight stretching across the open land. It's beautiful in a way, but it's just the kind of beauty that dares you to step closer so it can swallow you whole. Out there are rattlesnakes coiled in the grass, wolves that watch from the hills, and humans who are far worse than either. The danger isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle. A man who steps just a little too close when you were passing in the street, his smile a shade too friendly. A stranger in the saloon who buys everyone a drink but never touches his own. The quiet man at the poker table who has been winning all night without showing a hint of emotion. You start to understand that in the West, danger is a patient thing. It waits. It studies you. And when it finally moves, it's faster than you can react. Then it happens. A gunshot cracks the night, shattering the air like a thunderclap. For a moment, the whole town freezes. The piano stops mid-note. Someone drops a glass that shatters on the floor. You hear boots pounding against the dirt as people either run toward the noise or away from it. You stand frozen in the middle, every instinct screaming at you to pick a direction before you become the next headline in Mary Lou S.S. Gossip Roundup. You duck into the shadow of a building just as two figures stumble into the street. One clutching his side, the other aiming a revolver with shaking hands. Voices shout from every direction, some calling for the sheriff, others calling for more whiskey. The injured man collapses, and the gunman bolts into the dark. Sheriff Amos finally appears, moving faster than you've seen all week, but by then the killer is gone, swallowed by the night beyond the lamplight. The street slowly comes back to life, but it's quieter now. Conversations are hushed, glances are sharp, and the air feels charged, like everyone's waiting for another shot. You slip away toward your bedroll, your heart still pounding in your ears. You know that out here, nights like this aren't rare. They're just part of the rhythm. As you lie down, the sounds of the town fade into the distance. The coyotes are howling again. The wind is picking up, and somewhere out there, someone is planning their next move. You close your eyes and hope you wake up in one piece, because tomorrow, the day will bring its own kind of danger. But for now, the night owns you. You think you're finally getting used to it. The noise, the smell, the constant feeling that you're being watched. But night in the Wild West isn't that something you ever really adapt to. It is like trying to sleep during a thunderstorm while someone flips a coin over whether to rob you or shoot you. The darkness here isn't quiet. It's alive. Coyotes howl somewhere beyond the edge of town, their cries drifting through the cracked shutters like ghostly alarms. Every creak of wood, every drunken yell from the saloon, every hoofbeat on the dirt street makes your body tense, like you in a horror movie that won T-end. You've got a gun under your pillow, but that's about as reassuring as having a fire extinguisher in a house made of gasoline. You hear boots scraping outside your door. Not the slow, casual kind. These are deliberate, heavy, like someone's counting steps before they knock. Except they don't knock. They just stop. You freeze, eyes darting toward the shadow that just passed under the doorframe. Whoever it is waits for what feels like a year before moving on. Your brain runs through all the possible outcomes. Maybe it's the town drunk, mistaking your door for the outhouse. Maybe it's a gambler looking to collect on a debt you don't remember making, or maybe, and this is the one you can T-shake, it is a hired gun making sure you're asleep before he comes back later. Welcome to Bedtime in the Wild West. No bedtime stories, just bedtime paranoia. The air inside your little rented room smells like stale tobacco, unwashed blankets, and dust that's been here since the dinosaurs. You lie there half asleep and hear the saloon piano still banging away down the street. Some poor pianist playing the same tune over and over because that is all he knows. You picture the poker table, the gold coins clinking, the slow draw of cards, the whisper of revolvers being slid under the table when someone loses too much. You know that when that music stops, it's usually because somebody just pulled the trigger. Then there's the fire hazard no one talks about. You've seen buildings go up like matches because some guy got too drunk and kicked over a lantern. That's the thing about the Wild West. The whole place feels temporary, like everyone at's building houses and lives out of whatever they can grab before they move on, or before someone burns it all down. You'd think people would be more careful, but no. This is a land where survival depends on being quicker than the next guy, not on fire safety codes. And just when you think you're safe in your room, the night sends another reminder that you're not in control. A gunshot cracks the air, sharp, fast, too close for comfort. You sit up, heart punching against your ribs. You listen. There's shouting now, the kind of shouting that means someone's bleeding out in the street. You debate whether to look out the window, but curiosity here is a death wish. You decide to just sit in the dark, pretending you're invisible, hoping the chaos doesn't spill into your space. Spoiler, the walls here are so thin that if someone wanted to shoot through them, they wouldn't even need to aim. Even if the night doesn't kill you, it tries to keep you from sleeping. The floorboards groan when the wind hits them just right, as if the whole building is leaning in to tell you secrets. Outside, a horse snorts and stomps, impatient or scared. You can't tell which. Somewhere in the distance, a woman's laugh slices through the noise, high-pitched, and then suddenly cut short. And then there's silence. Real silence. That's the worst part, because silence here means something's about to happen. And in the Wild West, something usually means bad news. This is the kind of place where danger doesn't have a schedule. It's not like in movies where trouble walks in at high noon. Here it can sneak in at 3 a.m., wearing spurs and smelling of whiskey. You could lock your door, sure, but that's more of a suggestion than a guarantee. Anyone determined enough can just kick it in, and people here are nothing if not determined. That's why you keep your boots near the bed, not for comfort, but because you might need to run for your life before you're even fully awake. You start to realize that the Wild West isn't just about gunfights in the street or cattle drives under the blazing sun. It's about living in a constant state of low-level panic, your senses tuned to every whisper of movement. It's knowing that when the sun goes down, the rules get even blurrier than they already are. In daylight, at least you can see the trouble coming. At night, trouble becomes invisible, and somehow that's worse. By the time dawn creeps over the horizon, your nerves are frayed like the hem of your shirt. The first light doesn't bring peace so much as a break in the tension, like the pause between rounds in a fight. You've made it through another night without being shot, robbed, or burned alive, which in this time and place counts as a win. But the day ahead holds its own threats, and you know it. Out here, survival isn't about winning. It's about making it to tomorrow. So, would you last even one night here? Or would the sound of those boots outside your door be enough to send you packing? Comment below and let me know. Just don't answer at night. You never know who might be listening.